The views and opinions on this show do not necessarily reflect the views of ESPN Tucson 1490 AM, 94.9 HD Channel 4, or the Arizona Lotus Corporation.
Welcome to Spears and Ali on ESPN Tucson.
Justin Spears, I like that.
With Justin Spears and Ali Farhang on 1490 AM, 94.9 HD Channel 4, ESPN Tucson. Brought to you by Tucson Federal Credit Union, the Volpe team at Nova Home Loans, and Rightway Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing.
I want to be entertaining, but I'm not stupid enough to compare myself to Ali.
Spears and Ali back here on ESPN Tucson, 1490 AM, and the Spears and Ali podcast. Huge thanks to our great sponsors, Tucson Federal Credit Union, the Volpe team, and Nova Home Loans, and Rightway Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. We got lots to talk about on the NBA front, and we had to call in an expert. This guy can dunk on your face. He can also just shred on a guitar. He's also a really good basketball analyst. And that is Jason Timpf from The Volume, host of Hoops Tonight. And he joins us here on ESPN Tucson and the Spears and Ali YouTube channel. What's going on, Jason? How you doing, man?
What's up, boys? It's good to see you guys. We are reaching nearly the finish line of this crazy NBA season. And then it's going to just get even crazier as we head into this trade season with who the heck knows is going where. And man, the NBA is heating up after it got a little boring there for a couple of years. But I'm very thankful for the Indiana Pacers this month because they saved what could have been a boring end to this season just by playing some really fun basketball.
No doubt, man.
Hey, yeah,
No doubt.
And speaking of Indiana, game 4, I really thought, everybody's saying Oklahoma City let it slip through their fingers. I thought Oklahoma City really took control of that fourth quarter, and they took that game as opposed to Indiana letting it slip through their fingers. Maybe a little bit of both. What does Indiana got to do tonight to take the 3-2 lead going back to Indianapolis as opposed to Oklahoma City? Man, they've been so good at home, Jason. They're going to be tough to beat.
There's a couple of specific adjustments I'm looking for from Carlisle. I think Aaron Nesmith has been rough on both ends. He's struggling to hit shots, and he can't guard Shea or J-Dub, so I think he should consider cycling in either TJ McConnell or Ben Mathurin in with the closing five. That's an adjustment I'm looking for. I still want him to drop his bigs a bit further back and pick and roll. I think Miles Turner in particular has been struggling at coming out to the level of ball screens and keeping Shea in front, which has been an issue as they've had to deal with a lot of 4-on-3s. I think that in general, too, they're struggling to establish a reliable half-court action. That's really the big thing. Like, if you ask me, like, how Indiana is going to beat Oklahoma City, like, come back and finish an upset here, they have to be able to survive what happened in the fourth quarter of Game 4, which is the Thunder have a couple of things they can do in the half court that get them a great shot every time, or at least a good shot every time, which is they can run that high ball screen with Shea and bring Miles Turner up to the level, and he can just get past him and get to wherever he wants, or he can play one-on-one and he can pick on a matchup and he can get a pretty decent look. But the Pacers haven't established anything like that. Tyrese hasn't found an action that he goes to consistently that gets them a great shot. Pascal hasn't found a one-on-one matchup. I think their best hope for finding that sort of thing is Pascal. So I want to see them try to hunt a few more of those like post-up opportunities for Pascal. But ultimately, I agree with you, Ali. Like what happened was in Game 4, the Thunder did exactly what they did to the Nuggets and exactly what they did to the Timberwolves and exactly what they did to the Grizzlies, which is when the series is on the line, they really tighten the screws with their defense and nobody can score on these guys. And ultimately, that's why they're going to be the champions. And unless Indiana can buck that trend, it's not going to change.
Two stats I found really interesting in the last game that I'm wondering, is Indiana, like you said, dropping the bigs, going to basically compel Oklahoma City to start taking more threes? In this day and age with all the threes, Oklahoma City only shot 16 threes in the last game. And then I saw a lot of Jalen Williams with the ball. Shea wasn't a facilitator. They made him purely a scorer. And I thought that was a kind of a byproduct of the game prior when he just looked spent by the fourth quarter. Do you see that a trend of Indiana maybe forcing some more threes by Oklahoma City and not so many shots in the lane? And number two, do you think that they're going to continue to keep Shea off the ball and make him just a pure scorer?
Yeah, so like that's the downside, right? Like when you keep when you take away kick out threes, you put yourself in a situation where you're giving up more one-on-one opportunities. And like, that's the thing. Like Shea was able to work one-on-one against Neesmith at the tail end of that game. And what they were doing is they were gapping and trying to take away driving lanes, but they were still allowing him to operate one-on-one. And so if you start throwing additional bodies, then you run the risk of more 3-point attempts. Similarly, if you run a drop coverage in a ball screen, then if the guard gets wiped out by the screen, Shea's going to start getting some looks at pull-up jump shots and things like that. I'm saying that I would risk that a little bit more, especially with specific types of shooters. Like, I thought at the end of that game, like, they did a good job of keeping everybody out of rhythm. Like, Dort wasn't in rhythm. Chet wasn't in rhythm. No one was in rhythm. So that would have been the time to be like, hey, Shea, let's see you pass the ball now. You know what I mean? And so I think there's something to be said about kind of like bringing in like a different coverage or mixing up coverages at the end of games to keep a guy off balance, because ultimately, like, I believe your best chance to win is to make a team do something they don't want to do. And like, if I were to go up to Shea and I was like, hey, Shea, all right, here's the deal, dude. NBA Finals, Game 4, your chance to win. I'm going to let you play one-on-one. Shea's going to be like, all right, like that's what I do for a living. This is the thing that I'm best at, maybe in the entire world, right? But like, if you make him process and make reads in those situations, it's not necessarily the strongest part of his game. And so I think that's where I would make a tweak. It's just a little bit more of like forcing Shea to process as a passer instead of making him comfortable by allowing him to work one-on-one.
We're talking to Hoops Tonight host Jason Timpf right here on Spears and Ali. And Jason, when I was listening to one of your most recent episodes of Hoops Tonight, I forgot what you compared TJ McConnell to. I don't know if it was like a traffic cone, but you talked about how he's like low center of gravity and he's so tough defensively. Can you elaborate on that? And just what do you think of his career path as an NBA player?
Fire hydrant.
Yes.
Is what I compared him to.
I don't think traffic cone is it's not a compliment.
Traffic cone is a very different connotation there, Justin. But
fire hydrant.
To make a long story short, I think TJ is one of the best athletes in the league. I know it sounds crazy because like it's not something that we actually think about when we think about TJ McConnell, but to me, he brings a ton of power to the position. He's big and strong as a guard, but then he also has the ability to change direction at full speed, which makes him, in my time watching TJ, he's consistently been one of the best guards at beating people off the dribble, because essentially it's just a very basic principle. He's going to get the ball going with pace as he comes across half court. He's going to get the ball up into his right hand like he's in that high hesitation dribble, and he's either just going to shoot out of a cannon going right, or he's going to whip the ball back over to the left in a crossover back to a left-handed drive. And then if you cut him off, he can pound into that spin move, and he's just so big and strong that he just kind of gets to the basket. And I think that provides a lot of value, especially in a system where Lou Dort is kind of putting the clamps on Tyrese for stretches of this series. So I think TJ or Ben would be the type of player you could plug in there. TJ's career, though, I think is really fascinating because you've seen him talk about it. He's talked about how, you know, he came into the combine and just wanted to pick up full court. And he's talked about in podcast interviews about how he thinks playing hard is a skill and how that's how he separates himself. And all that is the truth. And like, my personal first experience with TJ playing basketball, because like obviously growing up here in Tucson, I got to play against him quite a bit when he would come down to like the rec center. And I was also fortunate to get to play in some runs at the Richard Jefferson Center with and against him. But like his competitive energy was immediately the thing that stood out to me. I remember in the very first game I played against him in a pickup game, he was with a bunch of U of A guys and they were all too cool for school and just kind of going through the motions. And TJ was out there, the same dude you see in the NBA Finals, like literally the same dude, just like talking trash, being physical, playing super hard, wanting to win that meaningless pickup game at the University of Arizona Rec Center just as much as he wants to win Game 4 of the Finals. And ultimately, I think that energy is what has carried him to a decade-long NBA career.
That's awesome, man.
Jason, from this may or may not have anything to do with a bet I made for the game tonight, but it seems to me every time Tyrese Halliburton comes out aggressive and wants as a scorer, Indiana usually does pretty well. And when he's kind of more passive and a facilitator, it doesn't turn out as well. Does Tyrese Halliburton have to be that guy tonight for them to have any chance against the Thunder?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly does, but I think there's a certain amount of like Tyrese has the juice to occasionally beat an elite defender one-on-one and make something happen, whether that's Chet on a switch or, I mean, some of the stuff he's done in some of these other rounds, like he beat Giannis in game 5 of the first round with a dribble drive one-on-one. He's certainly had some success one-on-one, but that's not like his strength. And so the truth of the matter is like he can get looks that are what I would call coverage beaters, meaning like he'll come off of a ball screen and the big will be back and he'll get a look at a floater or he'll get a look at a pull-up jump shot, or like he'll get Chet Holmgren on a switch and Chet will clearly be attacking in an approach that's more like, let me just keep him in front and force him to take a jump shot. So like Tyrese can get a moderately contested step back 3 in that sort of situation. But Tyrese, the aggression thing, ultimately, like his superpower is starting the Pacers engine in terms of their offense. I think there's a certain amount of aggression he has to have in the coverage beating situations, like taking those floaters when they're available, taking those threes when they're available. But I don't think he can go into game 5 and take 25 shots either. I think the main guy that they really need to establish for when things slow down, because here's the thing, like just because Denver, guys, don't forget Denver came into game 5 after losing game 4 in heartbreaking fashion. And Jokic played like the best game of his career. And they were up by 9 in the fourth quarter. And then it happened again. The Thunder again tightened the screws again, and Denver couldn't score again. And so like they've got to establish something for when the Thunder tighten the screws. And to me, their best bet is like you got to have a big forward who can get a small dude pinned on his backside and at least turn over his right shoulder and take a little fadeaway jump shot that he can get to every single time. And that guy is Siakam. So he's the one I'm going to be having an eye on as the game develops in game 5.
Now moving on, like you said earlier, this NBA offseason for other teams, it's kind of getting off to a crazy start. We just saw the Desmond Bane trade going to the Orlando Magic. Of course, here in Arizona, everyone's wondering, where is Kevin Durant going to go? Shams Charania from ESPN has talked about the Miami Heat, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Houston Rockets as preferred trade destinations. What do you think about those 3 teams as potential landing spots for KD, and how do you think all of this is going to shake out?
Yeah, I was a little bummed when I saw the shortened list yesterday because the team that I really wanted KD to go to was the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think Ant and KD just would have been a super fun duo, and I also think that KD would directly assist some of the key needs for the Timberwolves. Like they don't really have like a vertical presence around the rim other than Gobert. KD would have given them a second vertical presence. He's just that like surgical offensive player that the team desperately needs. He provides off-ball shooting. There's a 2-man game partner for Ant that teams probably wouldn't want to switch. Like there's so many upsides to KD in Minnesota. So I was really bummed when that didn't happen. I don't see the Spurs fit making a ton of sense. I find them to be on a little bit of a tighter timeline. I think it's for San Antonio, they need to be a little bit more conservative with their assets moving forward because I think they need to try to make some sort of win now move for Wemby, but I don't think they need to do something that shortens their window. So I think they need to be targeting somebody more like Giannis. And Miami, like I like Bam Adebayo, good player. I like Tyler Herro, had a great season. I don't think Tyler Herro, Kevin Durant, Bam Adebayo is about to go run away with the rest of the NBA. Even in an open Eastern Conference, like I look at that team and I see them potentially running into a team like Orlando and potentially having problems. Indiana having problems, like the Knicks even and having problems. And then that leaves us with Houston. And Houston's a little bit more boring. They don't have another big name, so to speak, that he'd be going to join. But the basketball fit is literally perfect. They are a team that is just full of a bunch of physical, butt-kicking defensive players, right? And KD, the mistake he made when he left Golden State is he went to Brooklyn with a bunch of finesse dudes, and then he went to Phoenix with a bunch of finesse dudes, and he just hasn't really been on a team that can leverage physicality around him. Houston could do that. And then also, as we got into the season, the biggest thing with Houston was they had this world-beating defense that was bullying a lot of teams with their physicality, but they just couldn't score. And KD all of a sudden gives you a guy that can put them over the top with his offensive ability. I think if Houston ended up getting KD, they would pretty quickly be that second best team in the Western Conference behind Oklahoma City. I mean, heck, they were already the second best team in the standings this year. They just couldn't win in the playoffs without a score. And so I don't know about you guys. I think KD's had his name dragged through the mud for the last 5 years. And did I love his move to Golden State? No. Do I think he still probably has something to prove in terms of his ability to lead a championship team on his own? Yes. But I do think people have wrongfully maligned him as a basketball player in terms of what he's capable of over the last 5 years. And I'm excited to see him on a real championship quality roster, because I think we're going to be watching him in late May and going like, oh yeah, look, Kevin Durant, he's an amazing basketball player. And it's like, well, he always has been.
Or, well, man, I love storylines, Jason. And I just think about this Oklahoma City Thunder team that is in the finals right now, and they have a bunch of assets. Is there any possible way we can see Kevin Durant and Oklahoma City just reunite and win a championship?
Justin, don't speak such blasphemies. The NBA would be ruined. So, you know, I'll never forget when KD signed with the Warriors. The championship odds for the Warriors to win the title in like October before they ever threw the ball up at center court was like minus 135, meaning you needed to bet $135 to win $100. Like, that's not fun, man. And if KD goes to the Thunder, that's exactly what it would be again. Like that, like I would even argue with the Thunder, it's been a fifth starter problem again in this postseason. It's been like, man, some nights Chet doesn't have it. Okay, well tonight we tried closing with Case and Wallace. Well, that didn't work. Like they even the Thunder could use a little bit more reliable of a fifth guy. And if they got Kevin Durant, like, good night, man. No one's beating that team. And frankly, for KD's sake, I think KD needs that third championship to look more difficult than his. Like, he went to Golden State and he won 15 consecutive playoff games. Like, think about the grind of this playoff run in the ups and downs. And the Thunder have been down 2-1 twice. And like all these teams are struggling at various points in the series. Imagine if you were like, okay, we're up 2-0 in the finals. We've won 14 straight playoff games and we're just going to go out and win again tonight. Like, it's just, that wouldn't be any good for anybody.
Unless you're an Oklahoma City fan, I guess.
Yeah.
Listen, I look at all the trade scenarios, and if you're a Phoenix Suns fan, I know you're expecting to get a huge haul back. But I'm thinking, man, if I'm Houston, San Antonio, even Miami, which I agree with everything you said, Miami is like Phoenix light. Why would you go there? But I mean, you got a 37-year-old guy. LeBron is an anomaly, so he's 37. You're going to have to give him 2 years and an extension of $120 million to get him. And I know Houston's got Phoenix's 27 first-round pick, but if I'm Houston, I'm like, you don't get that. You know, maybe Jalen Green, maybe somebody else with Jalen Green and a first-round pick. But if I'm offering for Kevin Durant, knowing I got to pay him $120 million and his age, Phoenix is not getting 5 first-round picks.
Yeah, it's tricky because then I'll see something like that Desmond Bane trade from yesterday, and I'll be like, wait, what? 4 unprotected first-round picks and a swap for Desmond Bane? And I'm like, I like Desmond Bane, but I mean, come on, man. Like, that's a lot. That's the Mikal Bridges package for Desmond Bane. And like, I mean, even the Mikal Bridges package was weird. I agree with you that Suns fans should probably keep their expectations low, but you don't know. The teams like Houston in particular or San Antonio have literally so many draft picks that they can afford to overpay in that way. I am not 100% sure, but I think San Antonio has the ability to match salaries with some guys that they'd be willing to give up, meaning like they could sweeten the pot with a lot of draft picks and give away players that are like, so let's say, for instance, like you got Harrison Barnes back in a Spurs deal. Like, Harrison Barnes is not a player that is considered to be super valuable. So you'd be able to sweeten the pot with a bunch of draft picks, but then you could turn around at the deadline and there's going to be some team out there that needs a small forward or a power forward. And then you could trade Harrison Barnes for a protected first round pick and get additional draft compensation. San Antonio and Houston in particular could potentially layer 4, 5, 6 picks into a deal. And so it's certainly on the table. It's just so hard to tell with the market because you have like, last year, you have the Mikal Bridges trade, but what other trades did we see? We saw Josh Giddey get traded for Alex Caruso, who is the best role player in the history of basketball, apparently, and literally got that. There's no draft compensation in that deal. So it's so out of left field with some of this stuff. The thing that's so tricky to me, guys, and this is crazy. This was a crazy lesson for me to learn yesterday. Not even a lesson, just an exposure. Like I've talked to a lot of people in the NBA who've told me that, like, when you start to rank draft picks, protected draft picks actually aren't that valuable. Like if a first round pick is top 10 protected, they actually view that in many cases as substantially less valuable than an unprotected first. And then Bain goes for 4 unprotected first round picks. Like that is
Crazy.
an unbelievable haul. Like I have to go back and look at the details of the Bridges trade, but the McHale trade had some pick protections, if I remember correctly. So like it was such an absurd deal that it's legitimately thrown off my expectations for a lot of this stuff.
Death, taxes, and stupid NBA GMs overpaying in trades. It's the only solid things you can count on in life.
Hey, Jason, we got to get out of here, man. But that is Jason Timpf, host of Hoops Tonight on the Volume Network. Check him out on Twitter. Also check him out on YouTube as well. Always doing a great job breaking down the NBA Finals and all the latest offseason storylines. Jason, you're the best, man. Always appreciate your expertise. Enjoy Game 5 tonight, man.
It was good to see you guys. Looking forward to next time.